Well, hello, hello, hello. Here we are again for another virtual lesson. Today we are going to be covering fragments, run-ons, and complete sentences. It's so important that you understand this. The sooner the better, because when I was teaching in the University of Puerto Rico, I noticed that there were plenty of university students who were still making these mistakes, okay? So these are very common, and the sooner that you understand how to correct them, the better it will be for your writing. Now, I wanted to start with this quote that says, "The art of communication is the language of leadership." Now, I know that each and every one of you has a potential of becoming a leader, and that's why it's so important that you start really working on how you communicate, how you write, how you speak, not only in Spanish, but also in English. Take advantage of the bilingual skills that you have as a Puerto Rican. Okay, so when I talk about fragments, run-ons, comma splices, I like to think about a balloon. A balloon that has too little air will not work. It'll be incomplete. This is a perfect balloon, right? And this is a balloon with too much air. Now you'll see why I'm bringing up a balloon later on. First, let's talk about a complete sentence. A complete sentence needs 3 elements. The first one is a subject. You need an actor in the sentence. Who is this sentence about? Second, you need a predicate, the verb or the action. What is the subject doing? And finally, you need a complete thought. It can stand alone and make sense. Sometimes a sentence has a subject and it has a predicate, but it's not a complete thought. It doesn't make sense unless you add something to it. So it's important that you remember that for a sentence to be complete, it needs all 3 of these, okay? All of them, not just one or the other. Now let's look at which of the balloons the complete sentence would be. A complete sentence that has all 3 elements, that it has a subject, it has a predicate, and it has a complete idea. Which one do you think? A complete sentence would be just right, the perfect balloon with just as much information as is necessary. How do I fix a complete sentence? You don't have to fix it. It's already perfect. It does not need to be changed. That's why there's a puzzle there with all the pieces. Some examples. Walter and Miranda enjoy going to the bowling alley in Aguadilla. As you can see, there's a subject. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Walter and Miranda. What are they doing? What's the predicate? They enjoy going to the bowling alley in Aguadilla. Okay, and that's a complete thought. I understand what's happening. It makes sense. I'm not left with any questions. The next example says, Ramon wants to travel to several countries. Again, this sentence has all the elements that we previously discussed. The final example says, the cat is very happy today. Again, it has a subject, which is the cat, and then we have a predicate, which is the action, is very happy today. Okay, there we have the verb is. Okay, and we have a complete thought. Moving on, let's go on to fragments. So a fragment is a piece of a complete sentence. It is incomplete. Why? Because it's missing at least one of the 3 elements that we talked about before. It's either missing a subject, a verb, or it does not express a complete thought. So, going back to the balloon, which one do you think a fragment would be if it has too little information? It would be the first balloon, the one that does not have enough air. It's missing something. Here are some examples of fragments. 1. Has been taking lessons over Zoom. Who has been taking lessons, you would ask yourself. The next one says, the teacher who sent me an email. Okay, what happened to the teacher? What did the teacher do? Because this part here, who sent me an email, is only describing the teacher. So this whole thing is still the subject. It doesn't have a predicate, even though it might seem like, oh, there's a verb there, so it has a predicate. It does not. And then when we look at example number 3, it says, because of the weather, as you can see, that one doesn't have a complete thought. It also doesn't have a predicate. Okay, so it can miss one or more of the 3 essential elements that a complete sentence requires. How do we fix it? Well, you gotta find the missing piece, and then you have to add it. Figure out if what's missing is the subject, if it's the verb or the predicate, or if it's a complete thought, and that will allow you to complete the sentence. As we said, the missing piece will be one of these 3. So this, to review, it can be the subject, the predicate, which will be the verb or action, or a complete idea. Let's look at some examples. The first example we had looked at said, has been taking lessons over Zoom. One way to fix it would be to say, Julián has been taking lessons over Zoom. As you can see, we've added the subject. The next example we had before said, the teacher who sent me an email. How would we fix this one? By adding a predicate. The teacher who sent me an email wanted to know if I had questions. Now we have a complete thought. Now we have an actual action. The third example said, because of the weather, how could we fix that? Make that into a complete thought. Because of the weather, Maria could not leave the house without an umbrella. Okay, so as you can see, fragments are incomplete. These examples with the red X are fragments. The examples with the green check mark are complete sentences after having fixed each of the fragments. Okay? Next we have run-ons. So run-ons have the opposite problem. These have too much information. As we can see in the definition, it says 2 complete sentences, a subject and its predicate, and another subject and its predicate, together in one sentence without separating them properly. So it seems like the speaker started talking and they continued running and speaking and speaking and speaking and didn't stop, didn't include any punctuation or any necessary stops to help the reader understand what they're saying. So which one of the 3 would it be? The one that has too much information. It has too much, is going to explode. Let's look at some examples. Example number 1. Lorena and Heriberto wanted to buy fruits. They went to the grocery store. Example number 2. The dog has been really friendly today. He got a new toy. Both of these examples have 2 complete sentences within them which have not been properly separated. Are you there? This is just a checkup, mid-video checkup. When you get to this part of the video, just so I know that you are watching and that you are understanding, please send me a message on Remind telling me the name of your favorite movie and just to keep in the topic, write it in a complete sentence, okay? So go on, pause this video, go on Remind right now, write me a message saying, Miss Tuens, my favorite movie is blank, and just tell me what your favorite movie is, all right? Okay, cool. Don't forget to do that, so I know that you've been watching the video. Let's continue. We were talking about run-ons. So how do you fix a sentence that has too much information? Well, you have to separate each independent clause correctly. By independent clause, I mean a sentence which does not depend on the other part to make sense. Okay? They work by themselves. That's why we're going to separate them. How can we fix a run-on? Well, there's several ways. The first method that we can use is to break the run-on sentence into two sentences using a period. You can see we have a period right here. The second option we have is to add a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Okay, this is the comma, and we're going to talk about coordinating conjunctions in the next slide. The next option we have is to add a subordinating conjunction. As you can see, when we use a subordinating conjunction, we may or may not have a comma, depending on the placement of that conjunction in the sentence. And finally, you have the option of using a semicolon, which is this mark right here. Okay, so these are the four methods. Let's see first the coordinating conjunctions, then we'll look at the subordinating conjunctions, and then we'll look at some examples. We've actually talked about coordinating conjunctions before, but I thought it would be good to review them real quick. So in order to remember which are the 7 coordinating conjunctions in English, you should memorize the acronym FANBOYS. FANBOYS stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those are the only 7 coordinating conjunctions in the English language. They are used depending on your purpose. If you're adding information, then you're going to use this one. If one clause will be opposing the other one, then these are the ones that you should be adding. I'm so sorry if you can hear that rooster. That's my neighbors. If you're going to add a cause, then this is the conjunction that you should use. If you're going to add a result, then you should add so. And if you are adding a choice, then these are the options that you have. Okay, so depending on your purpose is the coordinating conjunction that you will use in your sentence. Okay, so see here, you're going to have sentence 1, then you're going to have one coordinating conjunction, and then you're going to have sentence 2. Okay, so 2 completely independent clauses that are joined together by one of these coordinating conjunctions. Oh boy. The subordinating conjunctions are a little harder to memorize because there are many. Here, I'm only providing an example of some of them, but I don't have a list of all the subordinating conjunctions as I did with the coordinating conjunctions, which were just 7. Here, I've only brought some of the most common examples. We have after, although, as if, as long as much as soon as though, because, before even if, even though, if only, inasmuch, in order that, lest, once, provided that, rather than, since, so that, then, that, though, till, unless, until, when, whenever, where, whereas, wherever, and while. Like I said, these are just examples, but remember, if you're trying to identify a conjunction and it's not one of the 7 coordinating conjunctions, that's probably one of these. Okay, so now let's look at some examples of how to fix those run-ons that we saw before. Remember, we had read this example about Lorena and Heriberto. So one way to fix it is to include a period dividing the 2 complete sentences. Lorena and Heriberto wanted to buy fruits. They went to the grocery store. You see? So just by adding this period here and capitalizing the T, we have edited this successfully. The next option we have is to include a comma and a coordinating conjunction. Remember, fanboys, the S stands for so. So here we have Lorena and Heriberto wanted to buy fruits, so they went to the grocery store. Next, we have the example, the dog has been very friendly today. He got a new toy. How could we fix it? One option would be to add a subordinating conjunction such as because. The dog has been very friendly today because he got a new toy. And another way to fix it would be to add this punctuation mark. The dog has been very friendly today. He got a new toy. As you can see, when you add a semicolon, you do not have to capitalize the next letter as you would with a period, okay? So that's just a little rule that I thought I might remind you of. Now, can I fix a run-on by only adding a comma between the 2 complete sentences? Absolutely not. Okay? If we have 2 independent clauses and we divide them by a comma, it becomes a comma splice. That's 2 independent clauses joined together by a comma, and that is also a grammatical error. It is fixed in the same ways as a run-on. So for example, if you said, I wanted to buy a new laptop, my mother said no. This is a comma splice. It's dividing 2 independent clauses, 2 complete sentences inappropriately. You could fix it by adding a period, like you would fix a run-on. You could fix it by adding a comma followed by a coordinating conjunction. Remember, fanboys, the B stands for but. You could add a subordinating conjunction such as although. Although I wanted to buy a new laptop, my mother said no. In this case, we did add a comma here because the subordinating conjunction was at the beginning and it was not in the middle. Or you can add this punctuation mark. I wanted to buy a new laptop, my mother said no. Again, notice that this M has not been capitalized, whereas this M has been capitalized because that is the rule to do after a period. Okay, now we're going to practice. Let's read this. It says, Puerto Rico has, right there we can probably see some problems, reported its first case of Zika, a mosquito-borne virus that has been spreading across South America and the Caribbean. It has been linked by Brazilian authorities to a serious birth defect. Okay, so let's look at that first sentence. If we look at Puerto Rico has, you probably notice that that is a fragment. It is incomplete. That's why I've marked it in red. Then we see this one that says, reported its first case of Zika, a mosquito-borne virus that has been spreading across South America and the Caribbean. Although this is a long sentence, it does not have a subject, so this too is a fragment. It has been linked by Brazilian authorities to a serious birth defect. This one does not have issues and is therefore a complete sentence. Here I continue marking in red the fragments. Pedro Pierluisi, Puerto Rico's representative in Congress, said in a statement, this one does not have a complete thought. His office had been in touch with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. They had confirmed a single case of Zika on the island. Okay, again, we're marking based. The red are fragments and the yellow are complete sentences, but I wanted to get to the last one. You could pause this if you wanted to read it more carefully. This last paragraph says, Zika was first detected in Africa in the 1940s and was unknown in the Americas until last year, and the mosquito-transmitted disease has been confirmed in countries including Brazil, Panama, Venezuela, El Salvador, Mexico, Suriname, the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Guatemala, and Paraguay, according to public health officials. Okay? So this one we could say is a run-on. Okay? There are several ways we could make this sentence better. Alright? This is one way that we could fix it. As you can see, I have put together the first two sentences so that they are no longer fragments. And if you wanted to read the rest, you could also pause the video here and go back a little bit and see the changes that have been made. Alright, so let's review. What is a complete sentence? A complete sentence is a clause or a statement that has three main elements: a subject, a predicate, which covers the verb or the action, and a complete thought. The next question is, are fragments incomplete? And the answer is yes. Yes, they are. They are missing one or more of those elements that we just talked about. And in order to fix them, we have to identify which one and add it. And finally, why do you think it's important to fix run-on sentences? I'm going to let you think about that one for a bit and let me know what you think, okay? Let me know in the comment section or let me know on Remind. Why do I keep saying that? Why do you think it's important to fix run-on sentences? Alright, now it's your turn as usual. You're going to access this link. I will put this link in the description. I will also put that link on the Remind page. It is an online quiz to make sure that you are understanding what we're talking about. Please let me know if you have any questions, and please make sure that you do complete this quiz. I am marking your attendance based on who has accessed the quiz. I will get your scores, so please do the best that you can, okay? I did see your scores for the Kahoot. Some of you did very well, and I can also see the views on the videos, okay? So make sure that you're participating. Take as much from it as you can, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope that you've learned something, and if you have any questions, well, you know where to find me. Bye, everybody.